Hello, I'm Monsignor Charles Minor, and welcome to this edition of Reel to Reel. During the program, we will have the pleasure of meeting a young Philadelphia girl who, at the age of 10, was singing and dancing her way across big city stages, while other kids of her age were jumping rope and riding bikes. Those of you who happened to see the stage show Annie when it played in Philadelphia last year might recognize Mary Kay Lombardi as the lovable red-haired orphan Annie. Mary Kay came home a few months ago, loaded with souvenirs and lots of happy memories, which she'll share with us today. But first, we'll travel to a warm southern city and take a tour of Xavier University in New Orleans, Louisiana. Xavier University is the first black university for Catholics in the United States. Mother Catherine Drexel, founderess of hundreds of schools for blacks and Indians, added Xavier University to her list of accomplishments as far back as 1915. Ironically, Xavier is built on the site of another Negro college called Southern University, which had to leave New Orleans because of local pressures there. However, Mother Catherine, to avoid any further tension, bought the property through a third party. The rest is history.
Xavier University was established as a four-year college of liberal arts and sciences in 1925, fulfilling a need for higher education in the black Catholic community of New Orleans. Xavier represents years of work by foundress Mother Catherine Drexel and the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, who met opposition from intolerant townsfolk every step of the way. But in the mid-1960s, while many of our colleges and universities were becoming the scene of unrest and revolution, Xavier was about to undergo a dramatic change. On April 4th, 1968, the day Martin Luther King was shot and killed, Xavier named its first black male lay president. Meet Dr. Norman Francis.
When you're dealing with youngsters who are coming from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, who are culturally different, but who have the potential to make a contribution, you've got to provide an education that is both broad, but also one that strengthens just the internal fiber of the individual to make sure that they believe in themselves and then have worked hard enough to be competent in what it is they do.
Himself a Xavier graduate, Dr. Francis holds 6 honorary degrees, was the first black to graduate from Loyola School of Law, and has been a counsel to 3 U.S. presidents. Yet Dr. Francis has spent his last 29 years on the campus of Xavier University, serving in some capacity.
Xavier afforded what we consider the family concept, where you take care of all of the individual needs in a total educational perspective, so that it is not simply the academic, although that's extremely important, but you have to deal with the social needs of that student, the moral and ethical needs of that student in order to live in a pluralistic society and deal with all of what is demanded in career options in life. And Xavier proved that to me, and it impressed me in such a way that I saw Xavier as one of the most important vehicles in this country for, one, identifying talent, nurturing it, and giving it the total capacity to serve and live in this country.
Okay, we'd like to welcome you today to Xavier University's Kim Magic Show.
Chem Magic is one of the many programs developed to encourage young high school students to pursue careers in the health fields. It's the brainchild of chemistry professor Dr. J.W. Carmichael.
What we attempt to do is to go out into the high schools and identify students who have ability and interest in the sciences and try to stimulate that interest. The Chem Magic Show is one of a number of things that we do. Chem Magic Show primarily is designed to go out into a high school class, give a little bit of gimmickry, a little bit of kind of magic type stuff that might interest you in the sciences, but also to combine that with some scientific explanation of what those things happen, so that you don't end up thinking, hey, that chemistry is all magic. Chemistry is a science. So we attempt to combine the two together, go out, identify the students, generate that interest.
I sense so much motivation between the students, and I mean, it really helps, you know, when you walk into a lecture and everyone's into it, and you can just feel that everyone's determined to, you know, reach their goals, and that's a big part of Xavier. Everyone's, you know, their drive and motivation is just great.
I knew I wanted to go into the health professions, but at first I thought I could just be a pharmacist, you know, that I didn't have the intelligence to go on to be a medical student. But after talking to Dr. Carmichael and various other professionals here at school in pharmacy and chemistry and different programs like we have here, like the Osteopathic Awareness Conference, and different medical schools coming in to talk, I saw that, you know, I had the potential to be more than just a pharmacist in the neighborhood.
In the late 60s, when Dr. Francis assumed the leadership of Xavier, the university faced many problems, as did many colleges and universities during that era, but some unique only to small black colleges like Xavier. With increased enrollment, a decline in outside contributions, coupled with the fact that 75% of Xavier's students are on some type of financial assistance, Xavier faced a very dismal future. But in less than a decade, Xavier reversed that spiral, bringing the university almost $34 million in federal funds over the past 10 years, a dramatic increase from less than $1 million in grants per year to more than $5 million annually.
I spent a great deal of time with the administrative side, nationally, making the case that I've described about the support that's needed for an institution like this, working with the management people to make sure we're doing it effectively and efficiently. And you lose contact with students, their ambition, their needs, their aspirations. And I have missed that. I try in many ways to make that up. One of the things I've tried to do when I'm on campus, I will stop in or I'll meet students on the hallways, or if I see a group, I try to go to as many things as I can, and I ask them how they're doing, how you're making out, where are you going now, and I'll ask questions that I know that we've planned something, and I'll ask a leading question to get the reaction from a student as to how is that working. And I'm able to synthesize what it is we did in developing that lab and how that student's reaction is towards that.
Many of the students you see down there in my freshman chemistry class, or many of the students that you see on campus, will be leaders in New Orleans, 20 years from now. I like the fact that 20 years from now, we're going to have twice as many black doctors as we do now, 3 times as many as we do now. Large parts of those will have come through our program. Large parts of those will have interacted with us.
Xavier education, it has to offer a dimension that has a religious and a moral side, a side that is not unlike every other education institution because it's training chemists and biologists and sociologists and teachers, but it also has to give that cultural dimension that is black and that is appreciative of that background. Not too many institutions in this country have that challenge.
For many of these students, Xavier University is the opportunity to begin a new life. For others, it is the only life they've known. People like Joseph Spencer, who has been the janitor at Xavier since 1927. He's seen the leaders of today and tomorrow pass by, the periods of construction when old temporary buildings were replaced with modern, more adequate facilities, the many graduating classes, the basketball teams, the choirs, and perhaps the history makers of the future. But on most afternoons, you can find Mr. Spencer in the quadrangle playing the school song on his harmonica.
Any country that intends to be free and uneducated is hoping and wishing for something that never was and never will be.
When Dr. Francis became president of Xavier, it was the beginning of lay leadership at Xavier University. However, being young, black, and a Xavier graduate himself, Dr. Francis was readily accepted by the whole Xavier student body. We have a few short subjects for you now, but stay with us too, because we're going to watch for Mary Kay and Annie.
Like Jesus, can't nobody do me like Lord, can't nobody do me like Jesus, because he's my friend. Can't nobody do me like Jesus, can't nobody do me like the Lord, can't nobody do me like Jesus.
Divorce has now touched almost every American family. Hi, I'm Father Jim Young. Have you ever thought what a person goes through when their marriage breaks down? People who have been divorced tell us that at that time they feel friendless and lost, that their life has lost all its meaning. They feel almost like their world has come to an end. They feel hopeless about themselves and their future. Several weeks ago, I was preaching at Mass one Sunday, and I asked the congregation if there was anyone they knew who had recently gone through the heartbreak of a broken marriage. And I asked them if they had thought to call the person up or to drop by and to assure them of their friendship and support at this very difficult time. After Mass was over, I was standing at the door of the church, and a man came up to me and said, "Father, you really hit home this morning. One of my best friends became separated from his wife about a month ago, and you know, I've done nothing." And I've been asking myself all through Mass, why didn't I do anything? Was it because I thought he was a bad Catholic? Was I judging him or putting him down or assessing blame? But I began to realize I must put all that aside and as a Christian, assure him that I still care for him and that I'm still his friend. Is there somebody you know in your life who has recently gone through a separation and divorce? Maybe you're the one person who could reach out today and help them find meaning and support in their lives. Maybe you could make a difference.
southern New Mexico, quiet, peaceful, inspiring. Ignatious Palmer has lived here most of his life and would probably be the first to agree. But he's a man of few words who lets his paintings speak for him. Forest animals, the heritage of a full-blooded Apache, these thoughts fill his mind and his canvases. His works are prized by museums and collectors, but he doesn't paint to meet their demands. He still takes the time to create authentic detail. He's most famous for portraying the Dance of the Mountain Gods, a traditional Apache ritual.
Well, there's some artists, they paint these dances and things like that. They do that mostly in the European style of painting, you know. And they don't, most of them don't put out much detailed work, you know, on their painting. And I try to put in as much as I can with real fine brush work.
Mr. Palmer's dancer is the symbol of the Mescalero Apaches. St. Joseph's Church on the reservation also commissioned him to paint an altar cloth of the dancers. His skill helps the Apaches combine their traditions with their Christian faith. He's also created candelabra for the church, designed from the crown worn by the dancers. If it's true that one picture is worth 1,000 words, Ignatious Palmer, quiet man though he is, speaks eloquently.
In this section of our magazine, we're going to meet the former star of the touring company of Annie, Mary Kay Lombardi. She's a bright, talented 12-year-old who for 1.5 years has been touring the country with the role of the little orphan Annie. From Detroit to Chicago to Philadelphia, she has played this role which became very familiar to her. Now she has come home to take on a role which is equally familiar, that of daughter, classmate, Phillies fan, just plain Mary. Let's go meet Mary and find out what it's like to be a star among stars.
It's really fun, see, because you get to stay up later and, you know, I get to sleep later and we have a tutor and it's exciting and it's just great because everybody in the show is really nice to me and it made it easier to work with them. And we were just like one big happy family, you know, everybody in the cast. For instance, in Chicago, we stayed there for 7.5 months. So we stayed in a hotel and they made one of the big rooms into an apartment for us. They put in a kitchen for us and everything. And so we really settled in because it was 7 months there. When I was in the show, I got up to about either 11:30 or 12. And if we had a matinee, I would leave about 1 and the show would start at 2. And if it was on a Sunday, I would leave at 2 and the show would start at 3. And if it's a night show, we would leave at about 7 and the show would start at 8 and it would be over about 10:30. And we get home about 11, and then I usually go play Space Invaders or something, you know. And then we go home, watch TV for a while, and then have a snack and go to bed. Well, one time, Miss Hannigan was going to hit me with the paddle, and it broke right in half. So, you know, there's only no way she could hit me. And another time, my girlfriend Melanie from the show, she was one of the orphans, her sock got caught to my bucket. And we were trying to do Hard Knock Life, and we were running all over the stage trying to get away from each other, and we were laughing so hard we couldn't even sing. It was really funny. And then the other time, the orphans were doing the song Smile, and they were kicking their legs real high, and one of them, her shoe went right in the audience. And there, like other times when the brushes from Hard Knock Life that they brushed the floor with fell right in the orchestra pit and stuff like that. Funny things like that happened. It's exciting because I always think about the show and I always really think about the character Annie, like I'm really Annie. And when the audience claps and everything, I don't think there's any way you could get tired of it, because like they keep you alive. Even if you're not feeling good or something, they always keep you alive. Before I came into the show, my parents had told me how hard it was going to be, but I still really wanted to do it, and I'm really glad I did it now. I'm really glad. That's one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life, being Annie. I met Phil Donahue.
Did you?
And I met Dr. Bellows, Hayden Rourke from My Dream of Jeannie. And I met Major Healy from My Dream of Jeannie. And I almost met I Dream of Jeannie, but I got her autograph. And I met Mickey Rooney and Ann Miller and Doug Henning and Rock Hudson.
Among the local celebrities Mary has met was Pete Rose. Mary is an avid Phillies fan and is often seen wearing her Phillies cap. She was really thrilled when Pete autographed her hat for her.
On our opening night in Chicago at the Schubert Theater, my dad gave me a ring. It's an Annie ring, and that was exciting.
Well, the Annie ring, one of the trips I made to Chicago, in the hotel where they were staying, there was a jewelry shop that specialized in making jewelry. You could go in with any kind of an idea and they would make it for you. And I got the idea of the Annie head and went in and had them make it, and I gave it to her. And that seems to be one of the things she treasures.
Was it your secret, or did you share it with Bert too?
Oh no, Bert was in on it too. Between the two of us, we had it made.
I love it.
I got most of the credit though.
Enjoy it.
I constantly told Mary that when this was all over, she'd be going back to school, back out in the driveway with the kids, back to her old self again, and it was just a great experience. And then I prayed to St. Anne every night that Mary would stay the same as she was before she went into the show. And on her very last show, several people in the cast came up to me and said they loved her so much because she was exactly as she was the day she walked into the show. And that made me feel like my prayers were answered, and they really meant it. They were sincere. So, and she's the same. She hasn't changed. Good. And I'm so proud of her. I just think it's great, and hope she does more if she wants to.
Same people that are still coming here, that I'm talking about her girlfriends, are the same girlfriends that were coming here before she went away, and everything seems to have gone back to just the way it was before she left. Just about the same.
One of Mary's former teachers and now close friend, Mary McKenzie, sees very little change in the star of Annie and the student she knew at St. Martin's School.
When I was first informed that Mary was going to be in my classroom in first grade, I was told that she was involved in making commercials and going to New York a few days a week if necessary. And my initial reaction was, this child's going to be spoiled and really affected by that. And she came in and really surprised me because she was not at all. As a matter of fact, the other children in the classroom had no idea that she did this kind of work. And I think it was probably the second semester of school before they saw her on television. And a few of them came in and said, I thought I saw you on something. And she never told them, and I never told them. And that's just how that was reacted. Most people, when they found out that Mary was involved in this kind of thing, would come in to see, who is she, which one is she? And they would immediately be happy with the fact that Mary was like, you came to see me, and her manners really had them. She was very mannerly and just kind of matter-of-fact about, anybody can do this. You know, anyone can go to New York and make a commercial. And that's how her family, I think, really drilled that into her, that this was just something that anyone can do. And she had the opportunity to do it. Probably the most important thing is that her family has kept her in perspective. She does not think that she is anything special. She has a lot of self-discipline, and I attribute some of that because she attends Catholic school, and she is used to being disciplined. She's disciplined at home a great deal, and because of that, she has learned a lot of self-discipline.
Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun. Just thinking about tomorrow clears away the cobwebs and the sorrow till there's none. When I'm stuck with a day that's gray and lonely, I just stick on my chin
and green and say, oh, the sun will come out tomorrow, so you gotta hang on till tomorrow. Come what may, tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you, tomorrow, you're always a day away. Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you, tomorrow, you're always a day
Tomorrow may be just another day away, but it'll be a long time before we forget our meeting with Mary Kay. It's wonderful and interesting, too, to see how that little star slides right back into her own galaxy. But you and I know that little star will soon be shimmering again. Coming up next week, we will meet Coach Morgan Wooten, who has been teaching and coaching at the Matha Catholic High School in Hyattsville, Maryland, for over a quarter of a century. And during that time, he has come to be known as one of the winningest basketball coaches in America. Listen to these statistics: 652 wins, 91 losses. We'll also visit Casa del Carmen, an inner-city multi-social service center for Hispanics run by the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. Just as our ancestors set sail to America looking for streets paved with gold, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and Cubans still look to our country as the land of opportunity. The majority of Hispanics migrating to this area need jobs desperately in order to support their extended families still living on the islands. We hope you are enjoying Reel to Reel as much as we are. Thank you for your letters and your comments. Please write us at Reel to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, Philadelphia 19103. We'd enjoy hearing from you. Goodbye and God bless you.